Today I'm going to be discussing gender studies and the idea of gender in general. I'll start by discussing gender. Um, Google says that sex is the biology. So, sex is whether or not you have a penis or a vagina. Gender is more of a social and cultural construct, whereas it's what you experience as a man or a woman, or what it means to be a man or a woman. So, based on that, I think gender would technically be partially biological because, I mean, when you think about it, men and women were born for different purposes. Like, women were born childbearers, so they are more nurturing, more emotional, more caring. They are the weaker sex physically because they were not meant to be doing hard labor. They were meant to be at home taking care of the kids. And men are more, rowdy and aggressive and strong, and they're meant to be out doing the hunting and, the hard labor and taking care of the family in that particular way. They're not built for emotion because there is no emotion when you're out there on the field hunting or when you're being hunted out there by like a tiger or bear or something. There is no room for emotion. You need to be tough if you want to do the basic functions of being a man in olden times. So, you know, it was put there purposely by biology so that we would all work in perfect harmony with one another and with nature, and, you know, everything is perfectly synced just like it is in actual nature. We cannot deny that humans are animals. Just because humans are a more advanced species of animals, we are still animals and we still have natural urges and we still need to answer to those natural urges. Now, the problem becomes when you start trying to deconstruct all of these gender roles and make it so that women and men don't understand them, and you're raising children that are very confused and don't understand themselves and the world around them. And I mean, it's okay to let little Bobby play with Barbie if he wants to play with Barbie. It's okay for little Sally to go out and play with a sword and shield and play war with her friends. But when you start trying to say the kids need to do things like that, or else they don't understand the other gender, or they're not being inclusive enough, that's when you get to be a problem. That's when you get to have problems. That's when you're raising kids that don't understand themselves or nature or what they were meant to do. And that is ultimately fucking up our society. If nature was created to work with everything in perfect balance, and then you're throwing a monkey wrench in that and saying, hey, in today's society, since we don't have these natural predators after us anymore, we don't need to do all these things anymore, so we can just do whatever the hell we want, you are fucking with nature. And by fucking with nature, you are making kids even more confused and more lost, more scared, and then they're ending up really mentally fucked up because they weren't raised to any societal standards. They were just raised to do whatever they want, like spoiled brats. That's basically what you're creating, is spoiled brats. Now, gender studies is not simply teaching the difference between the genders like you would think that it would be. You would think that gender studies would fix that problem in society and fix what kids are being raised to do or think. And instead, you are creating more problems because gender studies is basically feminism 2.0. It is teaching kids to be even more crazy and more confused by teaching them things such as go out there and break the gender norms and, you know, if you're a boy, go out there and break the gender norms and wear a dress, even though you don't particularly want to wear a dress. and it feels unnatural and uncomfortable for you to wear a dress, but it'll tell you go out there and do that because otherwise you don't understand the plight of women. Plus, it's, since it's focusing so much on women, it's not being inclusive to the male experience. So you're ending up with a bunch of sissy boys who don't understand anything. They don't understand how to treat women. They just understand how to treat their own special breed of women. The special breed of women who wants to have all these privileges and all this power and wants to walk all over them. And they're just rolling over and letting it happen. I had notes, and I'm going to look at them so that I don't get too off track. It says that people who major in gender studies can go on to work in like office buildings, human resources, things dealing with people, because it says that they have good relationship skills, or good relating to people skills. They have good people skills to relate to others. Well, let's back that up a minute and look at what gender studies really does to people. You have a bunch of weak-minded individuals who don't understand themselves or society, who are then going into these offices, and they were taught that if somebody disagrees with them, that they should just scream sexism or racism or whatever ism they can think of and cry about it and feel horribly offended, and they don't get taught to solve the problems. But then you're saying that these people are being hired into problem-solving jobs where they need to deal with people, real people, people who came from eras that weren't of the notion that everybody needs to be censored and everything needs to be PG. It's ridiculous. I don't think that that's going to work out. I don't understand why a company would say that it hires people with a gender studies major to be in that. And I personally think that that's a load of shit, that they probably don't hire them for that. Or the companies that do hire them for that are very liberal and biased and, not good companies to deal with because of the way that they treat other people. So why is it cancer? Well, first of all, it is basing the notion that feminism is not dead. Feminism is a dead movement. So by teaching feminism to people, you are ultimately fucking with their heads even more, because you're giving them this imaginary cause, this imaginary patriarchy that doesn't exist, and they're basically living in a fantasy world this entire time. It's also cancer because it fucks with nature, it fucks with biology, it fucks with basically everything that we are supposed to be as human beings that we are not living up to. Now, you look at how we were back in, say, the 50s, when, women were more proper and men were more manly, and, you have a world where there was less confusion, more rational kids growing up. Granted, kids that were born in the 50s, they went into the 60s and the 70s, and they were the hippie era and all that stuff, but the hippies at least had a reason to be fighting how they were fighting and existing how they were existing, because the world was in great turmoil and they were trying to protest and stop a war that was bad. And, they were crazy, but they still had some sense of self. They still had some sense of understanding. They still created legit artwork and legit pieces of history that we can't really replace, Jack Kerouac on the road, things like that, all these things that were born of the 60s and 70s. But people were more rational back then, more sound minded. And I think that a lot of that had to do with the fact that they understood themselves and their purpose in the world. Um, Basically, what I want you to take from this is just that, gender is important. It's important that we understand our own gender and our own purpose in the world. It's important that we understand our own roles in the world, and it's important that we don't muddy that and confuse that, because when we don't understand ourselves, then we're no good to anybody else. Thank you.